You sit alone in your room, heart heavy, eyes red, the silence around you louder than any noise. Maybe the phone just rang with news you weren't ready for. Maybe your health has slipped through your fingers like sand. Maybe you've lost someone you loved more than life itself. Or maybe it's that slow, aching kind of sorrow, the one without a name that lingers and you don't know why. But you do know one thing: you are hurting. And quietly, deeply, somewhere inside you whisper the question almost no one wants to admit out loud: why is this happening to me? This is not a new question. It's the cry of the human soul when life begins to unravel. It's the voice of the heart in the grip of a storm. And whether whispered through tears at night or screamed into the pillow when no one is listening, it is a question that rises from every age, every nation, every soul that's ever faced pain. Why me? Why this? Why now? For many, this moment of questioning leads to more confusion. Some begin to wonder if God is angry with them. Others feel abandoned. Some start to believe they're cursed or simply unlucky. But for those who believe in Allah, the question takes on a different weight. What does it mean when Allah allows pain? If He is the most merciful, the most loving, the one who knows all things and controls all things, then why does He allow suffering to enter the life of someone who prays, who fasts, who tries to be good? Does hardship mean I've failed Him? Does it mean I'm being punished? Or is there something deeper at work? The Quran answers these questions not with abstract philosophy or cold logic, but with beauty, clarity, and mercy. It speaks directly to the wounded heart and offers something this world cannot: divine perspective. It tells us that pain is not always what it seems, that hardship is not the opposite of mercy. It may in fact be mercy in disguise, and that the moments when we feel most broken might be the very moments in which Allah is most near. Allah does not hide the reality of suffering. In fact, He tells us plainly, we will be tested. Not might be, will be. But He also tells us that every trial has purpose, every hardship has weight, and every tear carries the potential for reward, growth, and nearness to Him. This is not a cruel game. It is not random. It is not meaningless. It is a part of a divine design crafted by the one who knows us better than we know ourselves. This journey we are about to take is not just about answering the question of why hardship happens. It is about uncovering what Allah wants to give us through it. It is about learning to see our pain through His words, not our fears. It is about shifting the story we tell ourselves from one of punishment and loss to one of growth, elevation, and divine care. So wherever you are right now, however heavy your burden may feel, take a breath. This message is for you. It is not a lecture. It is not a sermon. It is a reminder from the one who created you, the one who hears your cries even when no one else does, the one who never tests except to bring you closer, not push you away, the one who knows the purpose behind every sleepless night and silent prayer. There is meaning in your storm, and the Quran is ready to show you what it is. There are moments in life when pain doesn't just visit for a day but settles in like a long, unwelcome guest. You wake up, and it's there. You lie down, and it stays. Whether it comes in the form of grief, anxiety, loss, or humiliation, it clings to your chest and seems to ask again and again, where is your strength now? And it's in those moments, when the soul feels the most raw, the most exposed, that Allah begins a kind of purification far more precious than we often realize. The human soul by nature is weighed down by layers: pride, arrogance, distractions, sins, regrets, attachments, desires that pull us in every direction. These layers build slowly, almost invisibly, until one day we look in the mirror and can't recognize the person we've become. And so, sometimes, Allah sends hardship not to destroy us, but to strip away everything that does not serve us. Every pain we endure has the power to soften what has become hard, to clean what has become stained, to return the heart to a state where it can truly connect to its Creator. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, once said that no fatigue, nor illness, nor worry, nor sorrow, nor sadness, nor hurt afflicts a believer even the prick of a thorn, except that Allah removes some of their sins because of it. Imagine that. Even something as small as a pinprick, if borne with patience, becomes a means of forgiveness. And if that is the reward for a thorn, what then of heartbreak? What then of a loss that feels like it has shattered your world? In a world that measures success by ease, luxury, and comfort, the concept that pain can be a blessing feels almost foreign. But in the eyes of Allah, true success is not ease, but nearness. And oftentimes ease leads to forgetfulness, while hardship brings remembrance. A heart at rest can become distant. A heart in pain often calls out in desperation, and Allah responds. The Quran speaks of those who, when touched by hardship, turn to Allah with deep sincerity. They remember Him not because things are perfect, but because things are broken. And it is in that brokenness that their dua carries a weight it never did before. There's a purity in that moment. No pretenses, no pride, just a soul crying out to the one who can heal it. That is the very essence of Tawbah, the return to Allah. The pain pushes us to ask questions we might have buried. It leads us to reflect, to seek forgiveness, to clean out the corners of our lives we had neglected. It wakes us up. It stops us in our tracks. And while the world might only see someone who is struggling, Allah sees someone who is being cleansed, who is being molded into something stronger, something lighter, something more beautiful than before. And then there is the patience that grows in the soil of hardship, a patience that isn't about silence or passive acceptance, but about bearing pain with faith. Patience is one of the highest qualities a believer can possess, and it is not born in ease, it is born in fire. Through trials, we learn how to hold our tongues when we want to scream, how to pray even when we feel abandoned, how to keep walking even when we are carrying invisible wounds. Each of these moments purifies us. Each one teaches us what it means to trust Allah, not just when we understand, but when we don't. There is also something deeply humbling about hardship. It reminds us of our weakness. It pulls us away from the illusion that we are in control. We come face to face with the truth that we are in need. And in that need, we rediscover the mercy of the one who never tires of forgiving. Sometimes, it is only when we are brought to our knees that we remember how to truly make sujood. Sometimes it is only through tears that the heart is softened enough to receive light again. Even the companions of the Prophet were tested with hardship, and they were the best of generations. They lost loved ones, endured hunger, exile, fear, and battles, yet their faith deepened. Their love for Allah grew. They learned to see every trial not as a sign of punishment, but as a sign that they were being drawn closer, being given a chance to rise. This is not to romanticize pain. Hardship hurts, it wounds, it exhausts. It can stretch a person to the brink. But within that hardship lies a process of purification that, if embraced with faith, can leave the soul shining in ways it never could have through ease alone. Like a goldsmith refining precious metal, Allah allows the fire to burn away what does not belong, not to harm us, but to reveal our truest self. So if you are in the middle of that fire, if you feel the ache of something being stripped from you, remember what it might mean. It might mean that Allah is not pushing you away, but pulling you in. It might mean that what is being taken is less valuable than what is being given. And it might mean that He is preparing you for something greater than you can yet understand. Because in the end, the soul that emerges from hardship with faith intact is a soul more connected, more radiant, and more alive than before. And that is a gift no comfort in this world can match. There are two qualities that carry the believer through the storms of life with dignity and hope: patience and trust, sabr and tawakkul. One teaches the heart to endure, the other teaches the heart to rely. Together, they are not just responses to hardship, but sacred forms of worship that elevate the soul, refine the character, and bring the believer closer to Allah in ways no worldly comfort ever could. Patience is not a passive state. It is not the absence of pain, nor is it the suppression of grief. Patience is strength under pressure. It is the quiet refusal to let despair drown you. It is the act of continuing the prayer even when the heart is broken. It is choosing to be kind when the world has been cruel. It is waking up to another day of struggle and saying, I will carry this, and I will carry it for the sake of Allah. In the Quran, patience is praised repeatedly as one of the defining traits of the righteous. Allah speaks of it as a necessary ingredient for success. Those who enjoin one another to truth and to patience are honored. Those who bear hardship with sabr are promised reward without limit. It is not just something to have, it is something to practice, something to build, something to reach for when everything else feels uncertain. And then there is tawakkul, trust in Allah, not just belief that He exists, but confidence in His plan. It is the heart's declaration that even when I cannot see the way forward, I believe that You, my Lord, are guiding me. Trust in Allah does not mean the path will be smooth. It means you believe the destination is worth the struggle. It means that when things fall apart, you believe it is because something better is being built. It means accepting the limits of your knowledge while resting in the perfection of His wisdom. The prophets of Allah were not strangers to difficulty. Their stories are filled with moments of waiting, moments of fear, moments of uncertainty. But within each story lies a thread of patience and trust that we are meant to hold on to. Ayub endured years of illness, stripped of health and wealth and support. Yet he never stopped calling upon his Lord, never accused Allah of wrongdoing, never gave up on the mercy he knew was near. His patience was not just passive, it was active, it was hopeful, it was worship. Yusuf was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, thrown into prison. He lived through injustice after injustice, but not once did he turn bitter, not once did he despair of Allah's mercy. Even in the depth of the prison cell, he remained a man of dignity, a man of trust. And because of that, Allah elevated him to a position of honor he could never have imagined. His hardship was long, but his patience was longer. Then there is Maryam, the mother of Isa, who withdrew from her people in grief and pain. She was alone, laboring under a palm tree, overwhelmed by sorrow. She cried out not in defiance, but in desperate surrender, and Allah answered her. He brought her sustenance from an impossible place. Her sabr, her faith in that most difficult moment, was seen and honored. And finally, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, his entire life was marked by trial. The death of loved ones, the rejection of his people, the battles, the slander, the hardship. Yet he remained steadfast. He taught patience not only through words but through every breath of his mission. He cried, he bled, he prayed, he endured, and he trusted. Every step of the way, he leaned on his Lord, and never once did that trust break. Sabr and tawakkul are not just tools for survival. They are the secret to spiritual growth. They are what transform a painful moment into a sacred opportunity. When a believer responds to loss with sabr, it is not just endurance, it is elevation. When they place their trust in Allah, in a moment of uncertainty, it is not just surrender, it is strength. This world is designed to test those qualities. Things will be taken from you, people will disappoint you, doors will close, plans will fall apart. But if you have sabr, you will not crumble. And if you have tawakkul, you will not be lost. You will bend, but you will not break, because you are rooted in something deeper than the world. You are connected to the one who holds the world in his hands. There is a beauty in patience that nothing else can match. It is quiet, it is deep, it does not need to shout or perform. It simply holds on, and in holding on, it draws you closer to Allah. In trusting Him, you place your pain into the care of the one who never fails, who never forgets, who sees all and knows all and has promised that not a single ounce of suffering will go unrewarded. When the Prophet said that the affair of the believer is strange, he was pointing to this truth, that no matter what happens, the believer is always in a state of goodness. If they are given ease, they are grateful. If they are given hardship, they are patient, and both paths lead to Allah. So when life tests you, remember that it is not asking you to be perfect. It is asking you to hold on, to take each breath with the intention to endure, to make each prayer a moment of trust, to place your fears into the hands of the one who created you. Patience is not about never crying. Trust is not about never feeling afraid. They are about choosing faith over despair, again and again, even when your heart is tired. You will stumble, You will question. You will have moments where everything feels heavy, but each time you return to sabr, each time you renew your tawakkul, you rise. And in that rising, you are shaped into someone stronger, someone deeper, someone more connected to the divine than ever before. This is the gift of hardship when met with the right heart. It builds in you the kind of strength that no ease can offer. And through that strength, you become not only someone who survives pain, but someone who is transformed by it, someone whose heart belongs to Allah, fully and forever. Sometimes the path you thought was right begins to crumble beneath your feet. You planned carefully. You worked with sincerity. You tried your best. But somehow what you expected didn't come. What you hoped for slipped away. You thought this was your destination, but now you find yourself in the middle of a storm with no clear direction. It feels like everything has gone wrong. But in the eyes of Allah, it may be the moment when everything begins to go right. Hardship often arrives as a kind of divine interruption. It halts the pace of your life, interrupts your plans, and turns your face toward questions you might have avoided. It can feel like failure or rejection. But what it often is in reality is a redirection, a gentle and sometimes painful nudge away from what is harmful, hollow, or temporary, and toward what is lasting, meaningful, and real. What feels like loss can be protection. What feels like collapse can be the first step towards something better. But in the moment, the wisdom behind it is not always visible. Allah tells us in the Quran that with hardship comes ease, not after, but with. The two are linked. The difficulty may come first, but it carries within it the seed of a new beginning. Many people only realize this after the pain passes. They look back and see how their hearts were pulled away from something they were too attached to. They remember how doors closed so others could open. They recall how they were forced to slow down and think more deeply, and they recognize that if they had continued on their original path, they may have missed something far greater. There are times when hardship is the only way Allah can get our attention. When comfort blinds us to our flaws, trials can reveal them. When success inflates our pride, failure humbles it. When love of the world distracts us, loss shakes us awake. We do not always see the crookedness in our own footsteps until something stops us from walking. And when that happens, it can feel like punishment. But more often, it is mercy in disguise. It is Allah's way of saying, not this way, but that one. Not this door, but another. Not now, but soon. And if we are patient, we often come to see the wisdom we once questioned. The story of Yunus, peace be upon him, is one of the clearest examples of redirection through hardship. He left his people in frustration, believing his time there had come to an end. But Allah had other plans. In the belly of the whale, alone and submerged in darkness, Yunus called out not in anger, but in surrender. He acknowledged his mistake, and he turned fully back to his Lord. That moment of isolation, which to the world looked like a punishment, became the turning point. Allah rescued him, forgave him, and sent him back, not in disgrace, but in honor. Through hardship, he was not destroyed. He was realigned. This is the journey that many of us take, in different forms. We start walking down a path we think is right. We invest our time, our energy, our love, but slowly, or suddenly, it breaks. And we are left holding fragments, the heartbreak of a broken relationship, the disappointment of a dream that doesn't materialize, the fear that follows a diagnosis, the silence that follows a betrayal. These are the moments when we feel lost, but they are also the moments when we are most open to being found. Redirection is often about bringing the heart back to where it belongs. Sometimes we don't even know how far we've drifted until the storm hits, and in the struggle to find shelter, we remember where true refuge lies. When we lose control, we remember who is truly in control. When we are let down by creation, we are reminded of the Creator, and that return is one of the most powerful outcomes of hardship. It shifts our gaze from the surface of life to its depth. It recenters the heart around purpose. It clears the fog from our vision and allows us to see what really matters. There is a deep mercy in being redirected, even when it comes through tears. It saves us from roads that would have led to emptiness. It pulls us out of states that would have hardened the heart. It breaks attachments that were never meant to last, and in doing so, it opens space for something better, something more real. It may not come immediately, and it may not look the way we imagined, but it is always guided by the one who sees the full picture, who knows what lies ahead, and who wants more for us than we often want for ourselves. This world is not the final stop. It is not the home we were created for. And yet, it is easy to forget that. It is easy to chase stability, comfort, and praise, thinking they will satisfy the soul. But they never do. And sometimes the only way to learn that is to be shaken, to lose what we thought we needed, to feel the weight of our own limits, and to return, in that brokenness, to the one who has no limits. So if you find yourself in the middle of a painful turn, unsure of where you're going or why things have changed, know that you are not alone. Many have walked this road before you. Many prophets, many believers, many broken hearts, and many of them have found, at the end of their hardship, a peace they could not have imagined. You may not see the end of the road right now, but you are being guided, you are being loved, and you are being led, step by step, towards something better than what you left behind. There are moments when life gives you something so heavy, so bewildering, that you can't help but wonder if this is the end of the road. You look around and the world keeps moving, but inside you everything feels frozen. It is hard to smile, hard to speak, hard to even breathe, without feeling the weight of what has happened. And yet, hidden within that moment, beyond what the eye can see or the heart can yet comprehend, may be one of the greatest blessings you will ever receive. Blessings do not always come wrapped in ease. Sometimes they arrive in the form of heartbreak, disappointment, or loss. They come in silence, in solitude, in sudden change. They strip you of what you thought you needed and leave you with only what truly matters. And at first it feels like pain, but slowly, gently, the soul begins to see what it was blind to before. That what was taken was never meant to stay. That what was broken was already cracking. That what you thought would destroy you has in fact brought you back to life in a new and deeper way. Allah tells us in the Quran that it may be that you dislike something while it is good for you, and it may be that you love something while it is bad for you. He knows, and you do not know. These words are not just meant to be read, they are meant to be lived, because in life, we often cling to what feels good and flee from what hurts. But the one who created the heart knows what it truly needs, even when we do not. He knows what must be removed in order for us to grow. He knows what must be delayed in order for us to mature. He knows when the door must close, when the love must fade, when the comfort must be interrupted. It is not always punishment. It is not always a result of your sins. Sometimes it is preparation. Sometimes it is elevation. Sometimes it is Allah giving you more than you asked for, just not in the way you imagined. A person might ask for closeness to Allah and find that their heart is suddenly shattered. Not because Allah is cruel, but because the heartbreak will drive them to a level of sincerity and prayer they never reached before. Another might ask for strength and find that they are suddenly placed in a situation that demands more than they ever thought they could handle. Not because they are being tested without mercy, but because the strength they asked for lives on the other side of struggle. There are countless stories of people whose greatest moments of transformation began with loss. A career suddenly ends, and in the silence that follows, they discover a talent or a purpose that was buried beneath the noise. A relationship falls apart, and the person left behind is forced to stand on their own for the first time, only to realize that they are capable of more than they believed. A dream is denied, and in the waiting room of disappointment, they find something richer, more real, more lasting. These are not just stories, they are signs. They are reminders that Allah's mercy does not always look the way we expect. Sometimes He gives by taking, sometimes He builds by breaking. Sometimes He heals by allowing the wound to be felt so deeply that it can no longer be ignored. And in all of this, He is never absent, He is never unaware, He is never unjust. His knowledge surrounds every drop of our pain, and His mercy weaves through it in ways we may not understand in the moment. The heart, when it is at ease, can easily forget. But the heart in pain becomes attentive, it becomes humble, it becomes desperate. And desperation, when turned toward Allah, is not weakness. It is the beginning of strength. When the believer falls to the ground in suhood, with tears pouring and hope shattered, that moment is not defeat, it is transformation. Because in that moment the soul is unguarded. There is no mask, no performance, just the raw, honest cry of a servant who knows they have no one else but Allah. And that cry reaches the heavens. Even the most painful moments in the life of the Prophet Muhammad were wrapped in hidden blessings. When he was rejected by the people of Taif and stoned until his body bled, he turned to his Lord not with anger, but with surrender. That moment of pain became one of the most beautiful du'as in Islamic tradition. When he lost Khadija and Abu Talib, his greatest supporters, he was driven into a year of grief. But out of that loss came the miraculous journey of Isra and Miraj, a gift beyond comprehension. Loss preceded elevation. Grief preceded intimacy with the divine. The night was darkest before the light broke. Sometimes, we are so focused on what was taken that we cannot see what is being given. We mourn the closed door, not realizing that what lies behind the next one is far better. We hold tightly to the pieces of what was, not knowing that Allah is preparing something new, something whole, something more fitting to our journey. But that preparation takes time, and trust, and faith in the unseen. When Allah allows a hardship to enter your life, it is never without purpose. It may feel like a detour, but it is often the straightest road to where you are meant to be. It may feel like a loss, but it could be the very thing that brings you back to yourself, back to Him, back to the fitra that has been waiting beneath the distractions and the noise. So do not rush to label your pain as a curse. Do not assume that silence from the heavens means abandonment. Sometimes the silence is space for you to grow. Sometimes the unanswered dua is protection you cannot see. Sometimes the thing you thought would break you is the thing that makes you. The Quran is full of reminders that Allah is with those who are patient, that He is close to the brokenhearted, that He never tests a soul beyond what it can bear. These are not just comforting words. They are truths to carry you through the storm. They are reminders that your pain is not random, your tears are not wasted, and your story is not over. In every hardship, there is a choice. You can sink into despair and assume that Allah has turned away, or you can look deeper, listen closer, and trust that even in this, there is mercy. Even in this, there is meaning, and even in this, there is love, because the one who holds your heart is the one who sees all, knows all, and never lets a believer suffer in vain. When hardship comes, it does not just bring pain, it brings a choice. How you respond to it shapes not only your experience of the trial, but what your heart becomes in the process. It is not about avoiding grief or pretending you are strong when you feel broken. It is about choosing to walk through the storm with intention, with faith, and with your eyes still turned toward the one who sent the rain. The Quran does not promise a life without difficulty. What it offers is a way to move through that difficulty with purpose. The people of faith are not those who are untouched by pain. They are those who know how to respond when it comes. Their hearts are not immune to sorrow, but they are anchored in something deeper than comfort. They know that every hardship is an invitation to draw closer to Allah, and they answer that invitation with patience, with prayer, and with reflection. The first response of the believer is not to panic, but to return. When a painful moment strikes, the words that come from the heart say, "We belong to Allah, and to Him we will return." These are not words of resignation. They are words of grounding. They remind you who you are, where you came from, and where you are going. They place the hardship within a larger story, one that ends not in this world, but in the eternal life that follows. And that reminder can be a source of immense strength. It tells you that even if the pain is great, it is not permanent. Turning to Allah in hardship begins with the heart but continues with action. One of the most powerful responses is to maintain your connection to prayer, even when the heart is heavy, even when the mind is distracted, even when your limbs move slowly and your soul feels numb. Each time you stand before Allah, you are reminding yourself that you are not carrying this burden alone. You are bringing it to the only one who can truly carry it for you. In times of ease, we often pray out of habit, but in times of hardship, prayer becomes a lifeline. It becomes a conversation, a refuge, a place to release what no one else sees. You may not have the words, you may not even know what to ask for, but even your silence in sujud, your tears that fall without sentences, are heard. Allah knows the language of a broken heart. He understands what you mean when you don't speak. Alongside prayer comes remembrance. The heart in pain needs something to hold on to. And dhikr is not just repetition, it is anchoring. When you say Allah is with me, or when you repeat, there is no power and no strength except with Allah, you are training your heart to look past the surface. You are reminding yourself that the trial is not in control. Allah is, and that realization softens fear and builds trust. Even as you turn inward, hardship also invites you to act outwardly. Doing good for others in a time of personal difficulty can seem counterintuitive, but it is one of the most powerful ways to heal. When you visit the sick, feed the hungry, or comfort someone in pain, you step out of your own suffering and become a source of light for someone else. And in doing so, your own heart finds light as well. One of the mistakes people make in hardship is to withdraw completely, to isolate, to stop doing the things that once brought them closer to Allah. But those are the very things that keep the soul alive when it feels like it is fading. The acts of worship may feel dry, the dua may feel unanswered, but consistency is not about feeling, it is about faith. The soul that continues to remember Allah even when it feels nothing is the soul that will, one day, feel everything again. It is planting seeds in dry earth, trusting that rain will come. Reflection is also a part of the response. Not blame, not shame, but honest reflection. Hardship is not always a punishment, but it is always a mirror. It shows you parts of yourself you might not have seen otherwise. It reveals weaknesses, attachments, and places in the heart that need healing. Ask yourself what the trial is teaching you. What is it pulling you away from? What is it guiding you toward? What does Allah want for you in this moment? Surrounding yourself with the right people is another part of this journey. Pain can make you feel alone, but you were not meant to carry it in isolation. The Prophet Muhammad reminded us that the believer to the believer is like a building, each part supporting the other. Find those who remind you of Allah. Share your struggle with those who will pray for you, not gossip about you. Let the companionship of the righteous hold you up when you feel like falling. Do not forget to seek knowledge. Sometimes, what turns hardship into despair is not the pain itself, but the confusion around it. When you learn what the Quran says about trials, when you hear how the Prophet and the companions handled suffering, your pain is not erased, but it is redefined. You begin to see the wisdom, even if only in glimpses, and that wisdom brings comfort. Hardship may close many doors, but it also opens doors that ease never could. It brings sincerity to your prayers, clarity to your purpose, and humility to your walk with Allah. If you respond with awareness, it becomes more than a test. It becomes a gift, a refining fire that burns away what is false and leaves behind a soul more connected, more real, and more prepared for what lies ahead. So respond with faith, respond with patience, respond with the kind of trust that says, I do not know where this will lead, but I know who is leading me. And let every moment of pain become a step closer to the one who heals all wounds, who rewards every tear, and who never lets a heart turn to him without returning with more than it gave. There is something deeply comforting about knowing that even the most beloved of Allah were tested, that even those closest to him endured pain, betrayal, fear, loss, and sorrow. The prophets were not spared hardship. They walked through fire with faith in their hearts and tears in their eyes. Their stories are not distant tales from the past. They are blueprints for how to survive with dignity, how to stand tall in storms, and how to love Allah even when the world feels cold. One of the most powerful examples is the story of Ayub. He was a man blessed with wealth, health, and a loving family. His life was full, and his heart was grateful. But then came the tests. One by one, his blessings were taken. His wealth vanished. His children died. His body became racked with disease. His skin cracked, and his bones ached. He became so weak that even his own people abandoned him. Yet through all of it, his heart never turned against Allah. He never accused, never complained. His body was broken, but his soul remained bowed in reverence. In his deepest pain, he raised his hands and simply said, "Harm has touched me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful." It was not a cry of despair. It was a whisper of love. And Allah responded, not just with healing, but with honor. What Ayub gained from his trial was far greater than what he lost. His patience became a timeless symbol of strength. Then there is Yusuf. His story is one of layers, each filled with a new kind of hardship. As a boy, he was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a well, and left to die. Imagine the terror of that moment, the confusion of being hurt by the very people meant to protect you. From there, he was sold into slavery, taken far from his home, forced to live in a foreign land. When he finally found a place of stability, he was falsely accused and imprisoned. Year after year, he sat behind cold walls, innocent, yet forgotten. But throughout all these trials, he never allowed bitterness to take root. His heart remained soft. His character remained noble. And in the end, Allah raised him to a position of power and reunited him with his family. His patience, his purity, and his refusal to let pain define him became a testament to the beauty that comes when you trust the process, even when you cannot see the outcome. Maryam's story speaks to the pain of isolation, a woman pure in her worship, chosen by Allah, yet tested in ways few can imagine. When the angel came to her with the news that she would bear a child, her heart trembled. She had not been touched by any man. She feared what the people would say, how they would look at her, how they would judge. And when the time came to give birth, she was alone. In the wilderness, in agony, she cried out in pain, wishing for death. But from the heavens came a voice, a message of comfort. A stream flowed at her feet. Dates fell from the tree above. Provision arrived from the one who never leaves, his servants abandoned. Maryam's trial was not just physical, it was emotional, spiritual, social. But through it, her rank was elevated, and her name was preserved in honor forever. The Prophet Muhammad knew sorrow more intimately than most. He buried children with his own hands. He lost his beloved wife Khadija and his protective uncle Abu Talib in the same year. He was cast out of his home, mocked by his people, and attacked by his enemies. In Ta'if, he walked through the streets as stones rained down on him, his body bleeding, his heart heavy. Yet even then, he turned to Allah with grace. "If you are not angry with me, then I do not mind," he said, even as pain covered him. His trials were not only personal, they were also public. He carried the weight of the Ummah, the burden of revelation, the responsibility of guidance. And yet, in every step, he taught love, he showed mercy, he embodied patience. His smile remained kind, his prayers remained long, his hope remained unshaken. These stories are not just to be admired, they are to be followed. When you feel alone, remember Ayub, who was surrounded by silence but still spoke to his Lord. When you feel betrayed, remember Yusuf, whose brothers turned against him, but whose heart remained forgiving. When you feel judged or misunderstood, remember Maryam, who bore the weight of rumors with dignity and faith. And when you feel like everything is falling apart, remember the Prophet Muhammad, who bore the world's pain with a heart that never stopped turning toward Allah. What these prophets show us is that hardship is not a sign of distance from Allah. It can be the very proof of His nearness. It is in the depths of trial that character is revealed and faith is refined. It is in the silence of the night, when no one sees your tears, that the soul finds its most honest connection with the Creator. And Allah sees it all, every effort, every struggle, every prayer whispered through pain. Their stories are reminders that you are not forgotten, that your hardship is known, that your patience is seen, and that, like them, you are not walking alone. You are walking a path that has been walked before, by hearts greater than yours, and by faith that endured more than you thought possible. And if Allah brought them through, He will bring you through as well. Because His mercy has not changed, His promises have not faded, and His love for the patient remains as strong today as it was for them. Every hardship has a beginning, but it also has an end. Even the longest night eventually gives way to morning. Even the harshest storm must quiet. And in the heart of every believer who endures, there lies a quiet hope. That hope is not imagined or uncertain. It is rooted in something firm, something timeless. It is rooted in the promise of Allah. Allah does not send hardship without sending relief alongside it. Not after, but with it. The Quran does not say that ease will follow difficulty. It says that with difficulty comes ease. This is not just comfort. It is a divine truth. A truth that wraps itself around the hearts of those in pain and holds them steady. That relief may not always look the way we expect. It may not come in the form we asked for, but it will come. And when it does, it will carry the mark of perfect timing, divine wisdom, and a mercy that knows no bounds. The believer walks through this world with the knowledge that nothing lasts forever, not even pain. Trials may shake the ground beneath your feet, but they do not take away your ability to hope. That is something the believer holds close, not out of naivety, but out of trust. Because every hardship has an appointed time. It arrives when it is meant to. It leaves when Allah wills it. And in between those 2 points, the soul grows in ways it never could in comfort. Allah promises that He is near to those who call on Him. He promises that no prayer goes unheard, no tear goes unseen. He reminds us that whoever relies upon Him will find Him sufficient. He assures us that the patient will be rewarded without limit. These are not just verses to be recited. They are truths to be lived. They are meant to hold you up when the world feels like it is falling apart. There will be moments when you feel like your strength is gone, moments when you wonder if the hardship will ever end. But even in those moments, the promise stands. The same Lord who split the sea for Musa, who saved Yusuf from the well, who lifted Ayub from his sickness, is the Lord who sees you now, and His mercy is not less. His love has not dimmed. He is still the one who brings life after death, ease after pain, and joy after sorrow. You may not see the full picture yet. You may still be in the middle of the story. But just because you cannot see the end does not mean there is no relief. Sometimes it is already on its way, moving quietly, patiently, exactly as it should. And sometimes it arrives not by changing your circumstances, but by changing your heart, by giving you strength you never knew you had, by filling you with peace in the middle of the storm. Allah's promise is not just that relief will come, it is that when it comes, it will be exactly what your heart needed, not always what you asked for, but always what is best. And when it arrives, you will look back and see how every step, every moment, every tear was leading you towards something better than what you left behind. So hold on. Trust in the one who holds your story. Believe in the promise that has never been broken. Relief is not far. It is already written. And soon, by the mercy of Allah, you will rise from your hardship not only healed, but stronger, wiser, and closer to the one who carried you through. Maybe now, as you reach the end of this reflection, your heart feels a little softer. Not because the pain has vanished, not because everything suddenly makes sense, but because something within you has shifted. A new way of seeing has settled in. A reminder has taken root. That what felt like punishment may have been protection. That what felt like abandonment may have been the closest embrace of all. That your hardship is not a mark of failure, but a sign that your story still matters to the one who wrote it. You were never promised a life without sorrow. But you were promised that sorrow would never come without purpose. The Quran never hides the truth of this world. It does not pretend that suffering is rare, or that trials only come to those who have done wrong. What it does offer is something deeper. It offers meaning. It offers light in the darkness. It offers the quiet but powerful assurance that your pain has been seen, your tears have been counted, and your struggle has been held with care. Think back to where this began, the question so many have whispered in the quiet hours of the night. Why does Allah allow hardship? Why me? Why now? The answer is layered and sacred. Because through hardship you are refined, through pain you are redirected, through tears you are purified, through endurance you are raised, and through trust you are brought closer to the one who knows your heart better than you know it yourself. The prophets carried heavier burdens than most of us could imagine, yet none of them were forsaken. Each trial they faced became a pathway to a greater closeness with Allah, a deeper wisdom, and a more lasting legacy. Their stories live on not because of what they lost, but because of how they responded. And you, too, are living a story, one that may not be written in scripture, but is being recorded with just as much care, one that may not be recited in mosques, but is precious to the one who sees every hidden effort you make to hold on. So take a moment and breathe. Let the weight lift, even if only a little. Remember that you are not alone. Others have stood where you stand. Others have cried as you cry. Others have survived what they thought they never could, and they did so not by their own strength, but by the strength they found in surrender, by the faith they chose again and again, even when their hands were shaking. The path ahead may still be uncertain. You may still wake up tomorrow with questions, with fears, with the ache that hardship often leaves behind. But now, you walk with knowledge. You carry the Quran's perspective. You know that every hardship carries ease within it, that every test is an opportunity, that every heartbreak can be a bridge to healing, and that your Lord is never distant, never cruel, never unjust. Keep walking, keep praying, keep trusting. Even if the steps are small, even if they feel heavy, they are not in vain. Your story is still unfolding, and what comes next may surprise you. Relief is written, peace is promised, reward is waiting, and the one who brought you this far will never leave you behind. To anyone carrying a silent burden, to anyone holding in tears no one sees, know that you are deeply, completely, and infinitely held. Allah is with you. He always has been, and He always will be.